Hello everyone, I'm Mike Kuhn. I'm one of the founders of BUIDLHub, and today I'm going to share with you something that's pretty cool. What we're going to do is I'm going to create an application in BUIDLHub. We're going to subscribe to that app's alerts, and we're going to send data from the alert over to a Discord channel to kind of simulate what it would be like to basically create like an automated feed of state updates happening on chain. The example I'm going to use is a little bit contrived, but hopefully you'll get an idea of what's possible when you can just start experimenting without writing, literally without writing any code. There's also been so basically we're going to start here by creating an app, and in BuildleHub we call this an app builder. There's been a question about like what's the difference between an app and a flow. So an app is essentially like an abstraction of what a smart contract offers from the blockchain side. So think of it like defining the inputs and outputs of the smart contract. Now, yes, the ABI and everything does define that, and it's all publicly available. But for those that are not well informed about Ethereum, they don't know anything about any of this. So what this process does is by creating an app, we essentially make it easy for people that don't know anything about Ethereum or blockchain to sort of get started, to play around with it. So that's basically what we're going to do. And we're going to use make or die as an example. So I'm going to create an app, and let's call it make or die. And we'll say it's the DAI stablecoin platform. We'll give it a cool looking icon. Okay, so this information is what someone would see. So the whole idea of what I'm doing is I'm creating this app, but ultimately it's to share the app on EventFlow, the flow builder, so that somebody could sort of automate interactions with this application. So I want to use descriptions that are meaningful and names that are meaningful so that people can recognize what this thing is all about. All right, so I'm going to save this. The first thing we have to do is tell BuildleHub where this app lives on the network and what network it lives on. So we're going to say that it is a smart contract. Obviously, we'll add more things moving forward, but that's what we have right now. It is on mainnet. And let's see if I have, yep, oh, no. Let me copy the address. Again, this is obviously somebody that would have some information, insider knowledge about Maker would be doing this. In terms of ABI, I'm just going to rely on Etherscan to grab the ABI, but if I had custom, I could upload it myself, using either the raw JSON or upload truffle build files, and we'll take care of parsing it all. And I can see what the ABI looks like in terms of what functions and events are available, just to confirm everything's good. All right, so now I have a connector. This basically tells BuildleHub where it lives on the network. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to create an alert. An alert is essentially a trigger, something that's going to emit from the contract. So think like any transactions or function calls or log events being emitted on chain. That's what you want to define as an alert. So what we're going to do is we're going to say we're going to listen for specific events, and the event we're going to listen for is an approval. We're not going to apply any filters. We want any approval that happens. So we're going to say new approval, and it triggers when an approval is detected in a transaction. Again, this is information the user would see in Flow Designer, so we want to be descriptive. Then we have to choose what output fields we want to get emitted as part of this alert. So obviously, we can choose all of these fields from the approval, but for this example, I'm just going to actually I'll pick them all and then I'll show you later what happens. Okay, so there you go. This anytime a new approval is emitted, we're going to send out the source guy and WAD fields as part of the event in EventFlow. All right, so at this point, we've got a connector, tells BuildleHub where the thing lives on the network. We have an alert, which tells it that it's going to emit some data when something happens on chain. And at this point, we have enough to actually use it in a flow. So let's do that. So we're going to come over here, and we're going to choose make or die as our source, new approval. which is the thing the alert that we just created. And when that happens, we want to send it to ultimately Discord, but we're going to use a HTTP webhook. So we save that, and we need to know what the URL is. So let's bounce over to Discord, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Server Settings, Webhook, and I already created it. Let me delete that so we start over. I'm going to create a webhook, give it some cool name, BUIDLBot, and I'm going to post to this maker channel, maker approvals channel I already have set up. Save that. I forgot to copy. I'm going to copy this URL, so I'm going to use it over on the BUIDLHub side. All right, and that's what I paste into the destination of this webhook. All right, and here's where I choose what goes out or what goes back. So here's the deal. This is something we're going to work on. What we ultimately want is the ability for you to pick as many fields as you want and structure the output either as JSON or plain text or whatever. But in the case of Discord, they require that the payload, the thing that actually gets posted to the room, is named as a property called content on the JSON object. So we're just going to basically translate the WAD field coming from Maker and turn that into a content field that we post to Discord. Okay, so we're just remapping the name. Okay, so at this point, we're going to turn this on. And what it's waiting for now is for an approval to happen on chain. So we'll give that some time. But while that's working, I want to show you something else. So if I come back to App Builder, let's add a query function. So query function, again, it's going to reach on chain to do something and get some state data from the smart contract. So we're going to call a contract function, and we're going to call, let's do the total supply. All right, and we'll call this get total supply. So what we're doing is we're essentially exposing the total supply smart contract call as a function that can be put inside of a flow inside BUIDLHub. So get the total supply of die. All right. We don't need any input parameters because it doesn't have any parameters, and there you go. So now we have a callable function. Well, what's cool about this is I can create a flow where the trigger of the flow is an HTTP webhook itself. So not only can you send data out of BUIDLHub via webhook, but you can call BUIDLHub and trigger the actual workflow, or trigger the flow to kick off. I think that noise we just heard was we got approvals going to our Slack channel. There it is. So those are the approval events coming in and the amounts that are approved. Now again, not something you do. You certainly wouldn't want to keep this on very long, but that's the idea. Let me go here and I will disable this and I'll finish up this other example. Okay, so what I did is I created a webhook. This is an inbound webhook, meaning I can call this URL and it will trigger this flow, whatever it is. So I don't need a secret key. And in terms of JSON, this is an example of what will get posted. I can post whatever I want here. So I'm just going to make something up, say field one, whatever. And that field is this output is essentially derived from the schema I just put in there. So if you had a more sophisticated schema that you were going to post, it would allow you to select what pieces of that schema you want to actually emit as a result from this trigger. All right, so I'm just going to say that field is going to be emitted. Now here's the cool thing. When I post to this trigger, I can do something in BUIDLHub, including call a smart contract. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call Maker and get the total supply. Okay, and the total supply, then I'm going to post it, guess where? to the Discord channel. And I'm going to post contract call results. We'll rename that to content. Continue. Okay, so now I'm going to start this flow, and I'll go back and get the connection details. I'm going to copy this URL. I'm going to go over to Postman, and I am just going to send a trigger. And what this should give me back, this transaction ID is just a unique ID for this particular event that I just basically spawned. And let's see, we should see, oh, yep, I got an event. So, okay, yes. And okay, so what am I looking at? I'm looking at these numbers. So this says that I received an event. And the cool thing is I can drill down. So I see there's the event I just sent in, and that owner address thing was what I basically posted for Postman. And what was the output? Well, nothing. It was just an empty event. And this guy received the event, and he produced something. Well, what did he produce? The total supply. Pretty cool, right? And he sent that to this webhook, and he received it, right, as contract call, and hopefully he sent it as content. Whoop. I don't know if that's accurate. Let's go over here and see if I got, well, yeah, there's the total supply. So I'm not sure why it didn't show you what the content was, but you get the idea. So basically, two directions. Either I'm subscribing to data on-chain and sending it into Discord, or I'm triggering some on-chain call and manually sending it over. So this is pretty neat. So hopefully this gives you some idea of how webhooks in BUIDLHub can be used to serve both ends of both emitting data to a sort of data feed, or to trigger some activity in a flow. Hope you enjoy it. We'll keep building on this to make it even better, so definitely stay tuned. Thank you.